Hi everyone, hope you're having a great Thursday so far. My name is Sarah Fairclough and I'm the Business Administrator here for our Platform Solutions team. Today we're going to be talking to you a little bit more about the eligibility process within SmartSimple. A couple of events we just wanted to let you know about. Our MES Summit is going to be in Dublin this year on April 29th and 30th, and Elevate is going to be in Boston later on in October, so we hope to see you there. Additionally, we have a couple more webinars left this week. So if there are any topics that you're interested in, you can still register. You can just go to our website and register there. And now I'm going to pass it off to my co-host, Rachel.
Hi, everybody. And if you were around with us yesterday, welcome back. This is my second webinar of the month. And in today's webinar, we're going to be talking about eligibility. So in this webinar, some of the things we're going to go over is the ways that you can set up eligibility questionnaires within SmartSimple. So this isn't necessarily a case of using a specific feature, but how you can combine different elements in the system to create eligibility processes. So what is the problem that we're trying to solve with this? So mainly, it's kind of an administrative burden on the one hand for staff to have to go through either applications or contact registrations or even organization registrations that aren't really suitable for the opportunities that you are offering. So by setting up these pre-screening questionnaires, it's going to not only save you time after people, so that people aren't submitting things that they shouldn't be, but it's also to save your applicants time so that up front that they know, for sure that these are not opportunities that they're going to be successful at. Because there's nothing worse than like filling out an application that's like 30 questions long and it's like, no, you were never eligible for this. You just wasted your time. So hopefully by doing this, it's going to save you and your applicants time. So the way that we are going to do this is to combine a number of different features in the system and putting them together so that we can pre-screen both our registrants to the system and also pre-screen the applicants before they're filling in their application. So it depends on how stringent you want to be with the system, whether you want to stop people altogether from signing up or whether you want people to register, have access, and then just, not be able to, complete an application. So that's kind of up to you and your judgment. So we can have a look at those examples. And again, the benefits obviously are just as I said, it's going to help streamline your user registration. It's going to cut down on the validation that you have to do once things are submitted to the system. And it's just going to overall make things more efficient and save you and your applicants time. So now we're going to hop into the demo. So I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. Okay. So the page that we are looking at now is one of our demo systems, and the scenario that we're going to talk to first is eligibility around registering to the system. So here in our login page, I'm going to go down to the new to the system register here, and you can see that we have a number of different options that are available to our registrants. And what each of these options is going to do is actually route them to not only a specific contact group that their user would fall into, but it's going to go one step further and ask them eligibility questions before, before that registration even gets into the system as a contact or an org. So in this eligibility quiz, you can see that as we're filling in the questions, we are using a feature called dynamic field visibility to ask questions progressively. So I don't certify, I do certify. It's going to keep asking me questions and telling me yes or no as I go forward. So this is a really neat way of using the dynamic field visibility to progressively ask your registrants more and more questions to get to the point where either they're overall eligible for the system, or each time they answer, incorrectly, they're going to be stopped from going any further with this line of questioning. And what happens when the user completes their specific eligibility questionnaire, and I click submit here, I have to accept my privacy and security policy first, but then that's the point when it's going to actually lead me to the sign-up page itself. And the questionnaires that we did in the previous screen are also going to be stored in the system. They are stored themselves as records in a UTA that we would call the Eligibility Manager. And then all of these different organization options that we had on the first screen, your applicants are going to be able to access the one that was corresponding with the eligibility quiz that they just completed. So that's one way of doing it. Another example that I have in terms of pre-system registration is this option here. So instead of having a number of dynamic field visibility options, this one is a bit more straightforward. So instead of asking them questions that are going to block or deny them from associating themselves with this specific role, the onus is more on the applicant themselves. So they are actually just doing a sign-off using just checkbox fields to confirm that they are actually aligned with this particular option that they've selected. So there's no eligibility questions per se where they are, it's like a yes or no, you're in or you're out. This is, the onus is on them. So they have to select the proper option from the drop down, and once they have filled in the checkboxes, it's going to do the same thing, where it's going to route them to the actual sign-up page. And the other nifty thing about this example is that depending on which one of the drop-down options that your user has selected, that is going to place those users into the corresponding kind of bucket of applicants that is actually going to control the opportunities that they're able to see once they do register and sign into the system. So if I were to click, a professional non-for-profit arts organization, the only funding opportunities that those registrants would be able to see are ones that are made visible to this type of organization or contact. Going that route it can be a bit more upkeep, especially depending on how many different types of visibility scenarios you're dealing with in terms of the organizations or individuals. But it is something that is possible, albeit somewhat high maintenance, because essentially you would just permission different shortcuts or links in the home portal to only be visible to these certain types of users, is how that option would work. But if you don't want to go down that road of permissioning out your portals to control people and see the opportunities, the other example I have here, once people are actually already registered and in the system, I'm just going to log in now as my fake applicant here. You can see in terms of opportunities, all of the opportunities that are in the system are available to this user, except for the ones that aren't open. So thankfully, there's one open in our demo instance. That would be sad. But so all of the opportunities that are created in this system would be visible to all of the users. And in this situation, when you click the apply button, that's the point in time when the user is going to be able to do an eligibility questionnaire that pertains specifically to this funding opportunity. So maybe it's the case that you want to do both. You want to also screen people before they register to the system, maybe have another round of administrative checks on those users that have gone through eligibility questionnaires, double check that they should have permission to the system, and then once they are registered and ready to go, maybe again still you have more eligibility questionnaires for them to do. So in this case, I'm going to disagree with these answers. I'm going to say no, I'm not eligible. And when I submit this, I am going to get a message which is obviously telling me that because of the way I answered, I am not eligible because of the requirements of that opportunity. If I take a step back here and I click yes to all of these, that's when I'm going to get the confirmation message that I am eligible, and it will allow me to proceed forward with filling in the application itself. So I suppose the caveat with any of these examples is that people could theoretically outsmart all of them, because obviously I can see the yeses and nos, and I can be like, oh, well, if I say no to this, it's not going to let me through. But if I start again and I say yes, then it's going to let me go to the application. The same thing even with the registration pages. If based on these dynamic field visibility options, obviously there are going to be people that are going to click around and be like, oh, this is a yes, this is a no. It's not completely foolproof, because it does also come down to like people's honesty and compliance with the actual options that they're selecting, but that's kind of why you have the certification sign-off aspect to it as well. So they're not 100% bulletproof, but it is certainly a way that you can really cut down on the administrative effort that goes with the, I guess, purging of applications or users that were totally ineligible to begin with. So those are some of the basic examples that we have in the system. There's obviously other ways that you can mix and match those options through the registration pages and login pages, and mix them with eligibility questionnaires before your applications. But now is the time, I think, that we can start asking questions. So if you want to know a bit more about this, if you have any specific questions about maybe the way it was set up, kind of high level, or how it could work for you, ask us some questions.
Will we have access to a recording of this webinar? Yes, you definitely will. We're going to be sending out an email within the next week of the recording, so that will be sent to you. Will applicants still be able to affiliate with multiple organizations?
Yes, but that might be something that has to be done maybe afterwards, after they've already registered. Because if they're manually registering themselves, usually by default they would be associated with one organization, and then sometimes afterwards you can go about like realigning them with multiple organizations. So that's probably something you would do after the fact.
Will there be a link to configuration instructions? Yes, we can definitely include that in the email that's sent out. I think Rachel would agree that's probably the best idea.
Yeah, there's some, as I was saying, it's not one particular feature that is being configured. It's kind of aligning a number of different features that we have in the system, and it kind of depends on which of the options you're interested in and kind of the way it works for your business process. There are some links in the wiki that we can include that talk about the features specifically, how to set up an eligibility UTA that goes along with your registration pages, how that works, so we can definitely include those. But as we have been saying over the last couple webinars, if you have a question in particular about your own use case, then you can just let me know personally, and we can talk through the options that are available for the ideas that you have.
How much implementing time would it take if I already have a set up registration process for customers?
Well, again, it depends on which of the options you're looking at. So if it's to change, not necessarily how people register, but whether or not there's the eligibility questionnaire beforehand, it doesn't take, I mean, for someone who's good at configuration, maybe a day or two maximum. I would think just to kind of go over the requirements and set up some of the routing options. But again, it somewhat depends on, you know, if you're going from very basic registration to a really elaborate eligibility scenario, it could add more time. So it just depends a little bit.
Is there any type of block possible that can stop the applicants changing their answer to become eligible?
Not really that I know of, because if you, I mean, as an applicant, you would have to put some, yeah, I can't even think of a way to block somebody from creating one again. Ooh, that one, I might get back to you guys after the webinar, just so that I can check, but I do not think it would be pleasant, no.
Can this feature be configured by our own administrators, or is an RFS needed for each change?
Well, again, not to sound vague or evasive, but it depends on how advanced your system administrators are. So I know that the first time I configured one of these, I got confused because, you know, sometimes it's hard to copy someone else's config, or even just going through steps can be somewhat arduous at times. But there's other people that they followed the steps and it was super easy for them. So we can always go through your unique situation just quickly over the phone, not in RFS, just talk through what your ideas are, and then depending on your comfort level, you know, maybe it's an RFS, or maybe you're happy to just go through the walkthrough steps yourself.
So I don't think there's any more questions right now, so thanks everyone for sending us some great questions. Like Rachel said, if you do have any more questions though after the webinar, please reach out to us at businesssolutions@smartsimple.com. Definitely want to hear from you. There will be a recording sent out shortly, so just keep your eyes out in your inbox. And if not, we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for attending.